terrific day. I want to thank you again for joining my show today. Make sure that you hit that like button, subscribe, and if you're listening online, make sure you hit the join button, subscribe, follow, do all those above, depending on what social media account you're looking on right now. I want you to do that. We enjoy having you here. We enjoy the fact that you watch and listen to our show. Okay, so what are we talking about today? Today we're talking about an incident that happened here in Birmingham where two individuals died in the Birmingham jail. Birmingham jail. The first was Kalina Peaches Krosky. She died on June 11, 2026, and had been held in custody for 51 days for disorderly conduct, public intoxication, criminal mischief, and 2 counts of third-degree assault. The other individual died 3 days after Krosky's death. Kendall Weezer, a 35-year-old man, was found unresponsive in his cell on June 14, 2026. Kendall was being held on disorderly conduct charges at the time of his death. Now, Kalina and Kendall were both on suicide watch when they died. And according to the autopsy and the information given by our mayor, Randall Woodfin, they found in those autopsies that both died of self-harm. Both of them died of self-harm in the prison within a 3-day period. This has led to questions by the federal judge and the Department of Justice have raised concerns about conditions at the Birmingham jail after the 2 deaths. One such concern is seeming inadequate mental health screening and monitoring. This issue meant there was bad jail staffing, like poor jail staffing and training, causing delayed welfare checks for individuals there. This year, there have been 3 deaths in the Birmingham jail. And in the past, since 2023, there have been 6 deaths in the Birmingham jail. Countywide, there have been 10 to 12 jail deaths since 2023. And there have been 28 confirmed deaths statewide this year in our jail, in our prison and jail system. Since 2023, there have been 700 custody-related deaths in the state of Alabama. One of those I'll mention, and it's not important to this case because I don't want you guys to think that we were accusing the police of violence or anything like that, was that in Walker County, a man who was having a mental health issue was taken into custody. He was also having a medical issue. He was stripped down naked, thrown into a room, forgotten he was even in a room. That room was very cold, just like a refrigerator type situation. That person was then later taken to the hospital after being non-responsive, come to find out he died of hypothermia. Those particular officers were charged with murder. Now, why am I saying that's different than this? I can't say for sure. But let me tell you something that I do find disturbing. While Kalina Krosky was transgender, and her name, also known as Patrick Lamar Krosky, or at least that was the family name given to her at one point, she suffered because apparently she had some bullying that was going on. So then they put her in isolation while she was having this mental health issue, of course, where she wanted to commit suicide and all this other stuff. There was another article I read where some friends of hers were talking about how she had untreated mental illness and other things like that. So that's disturbing. But she was taken to UAB. So was Kendall Weezer. Now, the story goes here, according to Mayor Randall, in his statement, both the 2 deaths to suicide were ruled after primary investigation, and both had went to UAB, were treated and released. Now, here's what's disturbing. Let me tell you about Kendall Weezer. He had been treated earlier the same day of his death at UAB for supposed self-harm event, but was released into police custody, where he was then found unresponsive after a welfare check. There's a lot of failure I'm seeing here, and I'm not a police officer. I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist. I'm working in any of those fields. I don't know what kind of. I guess they treated him for injuries at UAB, and then they released him back into custody. But if you commit suicide, somebody at UAB say, "Hey, maybe we need to put this person on the mental health floor and do a real evaluation for a couple of days, see what's going on. Maybe that's what we should do. Maybe we shouldn't just sit in the back. Oh, they're in jail. Okay, well, you guys gonna take care of them and make sure they don't kill themselves, right? We don't have to worry about treatment or anything. You guys take them over there because that would be an extra cost that they can't afford to pay. And that's part of the problem with mental health in the state of Alabama. We'll get to that in a minute. Now, Mayor Whiffen in his social media post claimed that both detainees had been at UAB after apparently self attempts and were released. Federal officials, like I said, there were other issues at the jail, include the fact that there's air conditioning problems, there's terrible conditions. The jails are nasty, and all those other things. All these things are being said by people who've been in the jail, so on and so forth. I get it. I live in Alabama, and people are going to say, well, if you do the crime, you do the time. That's what you get. They love this guy in Texas who feeds bologna and keeps his prisoners in tents in the heat in Texas. Guys like that, that guy was convicted of a crime, by the way, for how he was treating his prisoners. But that's besides the point. We don't have a correctional facility. We have a punishment system. It's a penal system that penalizes you to death. They don't even properly allow people to get probation. They say if you have good behavior, if you take on certain programs to do this stuff. No, our system will penalize and say, well, you got to serve your full term, even though there's signs that you may have actually reformed. I'm sorry. You're going to have to stay there because we're going to punish you for the rest of your life. So then after that, it's hard to get a job. It's hard to do all sorts of things. If you've been in jail for 30 years and all of a sudden now you got to be in societies, the world has changed. Things change. Say you were 20, now you're 50, trying to get a job, trying to survive till retirement and find a place to live until you're gone. You can't get a lot of money from the state because guess what? You were a felon or so on and so forth. That can't happen. 10 years, it doesn't matter. Either way, the system is very damaging. Anyway, let me get back to this here. I talked about the deaths in jail and all that. Mayor Whiffen has previously stated in 2022 that the jail was suffering from poor conditions and had reached capacity. The Birmingham Jail has 357 beds and then at times they exceeded 400 to 450 detainees. Now, supposedly they are coordinated with the Jefferson County Jail. Therefore, there aren't quite that many detainees there. I think that he said currently it was 194 there, but there's still a situation where even with 194, they can't keep up with everybody. And that's how these two people ended up dying. And apparently a third person has died this year for whatever cause in the prison. There are approximately 931,000 Alabama adults with mental health illness. 236,000 have serious conditions like schizophrenia, PTSD, severe manic bipolar disorder, multi-personal personality disorder, things like that. 35 to 40% of those have a co-occurring substance use disorder, which they're holding it separate from that. But I think part of that, and this is coming from how I think, is people who are even if you suffer something minor like depression or stress related illnesses or those type of things, anxiety, you may tend to try to find alternative means to relieve that stress. So you might take some kind of drugs or do something you're not supposed to. That number is nearly 50% of those with serious mental illness. And so we're talking about when it comes to the prison population, I believe they said at least 20 to 30% of the prison population with mental illness are also on drugs. And like I said, that could be 50%, especially with those with serious issues. Side note, 10 to 15% of the people who are on mental health cases or on mental health drugs also are co-occurring substance use disorder members. So even if you give people medications and they're not getting proper care and proper follow-up, they could end up taking other drugs on top of the drugs they got or getting addicted to the drugs they take for their mental illness. So all of this is stuff that's a factor. Now, here's the worst part. Alabama is 50th out of all the states, joining Nevada and Arizona near the bottom in mental health for children and young people. And so that means they're also at the bottom of the numbers when it comes to adult mental health. The sources I got this information from state that lack of doctors, mental health facilities, insurance coverage, and funding are all contributing factors to this number. Many of Alabama jails and prison facilities are currently under U.S. Department of Justice investigation or supervision due to poor conditions for prisoners. And that's been the case since this current guy in the half White House was in the office the first time around when the White House was still fully intact. There was information about that at that time. The state spends $60 to $70 million per year that it allocates to local detention facilities statewide. The state of Alabama has allocated about $240 million a year for mental health statewide. It's giving $1 billion to prisons, $1 billion with a big B, to update their facilities. To do that when we're not doing enough for healthcare, mental health. Again, if we're not doing a structural thing where we're working on education, because we know people who aren't educated are more likely to end up in prison, they're more likely to have mental health issues. Family structures can cause that too, because some mental illnesses are caused by social issues at home, where mom and dad aren't together or not working. Dad's in prison, mom's at home. That causes mental health issues. All of those things are possible. We know this. We know this for a fact. The state of Alabama spends $240 million a year on mental health care, and that's not enough money for that particular issue. It spends more money on prisons, more money on silly stuff like protecting the borders from people coming from Mexico, and we're nowhere near Mexico, by the way. We're nowhere near Mexico. Our only port of entry outside the United States is Mobile or the airports. Those are the only ones. But we spend a lot of money trying to do stuff that has nothing to do with the state of Alabama, but we can't take care of our people. Let's just put it that way. And again, I mentioned that 3 deaths happened this year, and they said 6 deaths have happened within the past 2 years at the Birmingham Jail. So half of those happened this year or past since 2021. So 3 of those deaths happened this year. Majority of them happened this year. And there are conditions that are deteriorating at the jail. And yes, Mayor Woodfin has said that the city has allocated $5 million to fixing the Birmingham jails. I hope that they actually get to the point where they do this. I'm going to tell you this story, and I think it's important that I tell you this story because it involves someone that I know personally. They have been in the mental health system. They get 10 days in the mental health system. When they come home, sometimes it works for a long time. Then they have to go back again. It's a constant battle for that particular individual. There are other individuals in my family who have ended up in facilities that aren't basically nursing homes where they barely take care of you properly, where you just kind of they lock you up, throw away your keys. Same situation as the jail. Well, you're mentally ill. Oh, well. In Alabama, there are a lot of behavioral and other issues that can be handled properly, but we don't have the proper facilities here. There are things that can, but they cost money that people don't have, and the system is not built to take care of people. We're actually trying to cut people off of Medicare and Medicaid. We're trying to cut people off who need these things. We're hurting rural health care. We're doing all that. We've got to build a system that works on good mental health that will, like I said, it's affordable. Also, it's not overtaxing to the taxpayer, but where we have doctors, maybe we offer scholarship programs for doctors, nurses, and other mental health facility workers to try to build that. At the same time, let's work on our facilities that we have available, both state and private facilities. We work, tax incentive with private facilities so that they can be better at doing those things. At the same time, we need to reform our jails. Maybe they need, some of them, I'm sure do. I don't even know if Birmingham does or not. Maybe they have a nurse or a nurse practitioner on duty there that can help them when people are having problems, and then have some mental case workers, social workers on duty to help these people, because that's going to be necessary. And I understand we can overtax our social science workers in jail because we can only hire so many people, and you got so many people coming through the door. But you got to have these people available, these people who know more than a police officer that was trained on some video on a computer or 6 weeks in a course instead of taking 2 to 3 years, 4 years of school to do this. That's what we're doing. We're expecting the police to do something that they are not equipped or trained to do. And that's not fair to them, nor is it fair to you in this system. So let's set up the system up right. Let's put the right training in place so that these people can do the things they need to do. And that's all I have to say about that today. I don't want to get into the weeds like other people will do. There's an activist out there who recently got arrested. He's doing what he feels is best to bring attention to a problem in the jail system that we know exists, but we need more attention paid to that. I want to bring this up. So we had a young man just last week who was convicted of a crime. He committed the crime, but I don't feel that the conviction was fair. We had yet another man who was released for committing a crime against someone, and that's how I feel about the situation in South Carolina. Killed a 14-year-old boy, shot him in the back because he ran out of a store because this man was accusing him of stealing an item that he did not steal, but yet still he was being accused by this man of that, a dollar bottle of water, shot the boy in the back. He gets off on the crime. We live in a state where we live in a world where there is no justice for people, regardless of the color of their skin. Well, especially those who have my hue. We have no justice for people who look like me. And we live in a system that throws away the key for the poorest among us, or for the disenfranchised, people who don't look like this young lady, the young lady that was cross-gender, or this other gentleman, for whatever reason in society, he was in jail because he had misconduct. Does he deserve to die in jail? According to me, I don't. But there's a small percentage of you who say, well, that's part of the consequences of going to jail. If you don't want to do the time, don't do the crime. Still not looking at the mental illness that this person suffers from, which may mean that you yourself have some underlying mental condition that you have not had diagnosed, the reason why you even feel that way. I've said my piece. I want to thank you again for listening to Thought You're Woke No Speed Limit podcast. Again, this is available on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon. You name it, it's there. It will be on Fanbase. It will be on The Black Tube. Shout out to folks over there at The Black Tube. This will be available to you to watch and to listen to. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe, and follow wherever you are. Y'all have a wonderful day. Peace.
You have been listening to Thought You Were Woke No Speed Limit podcast.